Hey, how time flies. Right now is the end of 2024. And if you've been looking around the entire property market of Singapore for the entire year of 2024 and still considering what to buy next or what to invest in next, 2025 is going to be another exciting year for you. And if you are still looking for that property, next year is going to be something that is very special. So in this video, I'm just going to share with you the 3 fundamentals of what you could expect in 2025. Now, so as we step into 2025, the property market is going to be very interesting. So let's forget all about what's about interest rate and all that thing. Let's dive straight into fundamentals. And the fundamentals, by that I mean, right, the dynamics that the home buyer, investor, and homeowners should be looking for in the housing landscape in Singapore. And these are the 3 things that cannot run away. Number 1 is housing demand. Housing demand generally is driven by one major factor. Can you guess what it is? That's correct. And that is population growth. So later in this video, I'm going to share with you what are the projected population numbers, and then you'll make a decision whether those numbers will have certain effect and impact on the property market in Singapore. So number 2, besides the housing demand, will become the housing supply. That's right. So when there's a demand, they must have a supply to meet that demand. So we're going to take a look at when you buy a property, what kind of property are you looking at? What type of property is available, and what are the quantities and the supply that is available for the potential buyer in 2025. Now, with the demand and supply in play, we can determine the most important thing for all property buyers, which is the property price. So these are the 3 things that I want you to remember. It's always about the demand, the supply, which affect the property price. So if we take a look at the projected demand for housing, right? So we know that our population growth, right, will actually increase. And later on, I'm going to show you that what are the numbers that the population is going to increase in 2025. And we're going to compare with what is the housing supply situation, right? Be it a BTO, a resale HDB, a resale condo, or even an executive condo. So if we look at the current population, right? In fact, if you look at it, recently on the newspaper, I've already announced that, congratulations, Singapore has already crossed the 6 million mark in population. In fact, it's already 6.04 as of June 2024, which is this year. So if you take a look at that milestone number and why it is important, you remember that we actually had a white paper, which I'm going to share with you later. But before that, you can see our population have steadily grown for the past 10 years from a 5.5 million population in 2014 all the way to 6.04. In fact, if you look at the projections from the white paper that I just mentioned, we are actually being targeted to grow to about 6.1 million next year. So what is the impact when you have that kind of population growth? So the white paper actually says that the projection of Singapore's population, we are actually projected to go by 2030 a population of between 6.5 to 6.9 million. So let me repeat, even on the conservative end, we are looking at 6.5 million, right? That's about 500,000 population growth from now until 2030, which is probably about 5 to 6 years from now. And in fact, so recently in October 2024, right, our Minister Indranee Rajah actually noted, right, this you can actually look it up, that she commented, she gave a parliamentary report that the current population figure of 6.04 in June actually aligns with our goal that's set up by the white paper all the way back in 2013. And if you look at the numbers itself, if you look at the breakdown, right, next we want to look at what is the breakdown. So 6.04, what are the breakdown in terms of Singaporeans, Singapore citizens, permanent residents, PR, and of course, non-citizens, foreigners. Now, if you look at this, the breakdown is about 3.6 million in citizens. And for PRs, it's about 500,000, about 545,000. And non-residents makes up about close to about 1.9 million. Now, I just want you to take a note at these numbers. So this is 3.6, and then this is about 1.9. But the interesting thing is, if we are to go beyond to 6.5 million, all the while you can observe that the PR numbers are pretty stable, all the while around about 500,000, 520, 530, 540. That's quite normal. Because why? Because those that in the PR will go to the path of becoming a citizen. That's why you can see citizens grow from 3.3 million all the way to about 3.6 million, a growth of about 300,000. So let's step back. So if you think about it, when we are talking about 6.5 million and we talk about 3.6 million of citizens, this is what we are going to be projecting. For the last 10 years, citizens is grown as about 300. So let's say another 5 years. Now 5 years, we should look at about 150,000 in terms of citizens. Those that's going to move up from the PR to become citizens. And we look at PR has always been stable, about 500,000. So that is probably what you can derive from the last 10 years of numbers that the government policy wishes to keep quite a stable number of permanent residents for them to really to get ready along the citizenship route. Now, the interesting thing is this: non-citizens for the last 10 years have increased by about 566,000. Now, if I just do a straight line projection, the next 5 years, we are going to be looking at about 283,000. So what does that mean? So Singaporeans and non-citizens, if we just triangulate and we just break down the numbers, based on these projections, we need about 38,000 homes for the next 5 years. Now, if we look at this translates to be about a total of 190,000 homes that is needed by 2030. So if you just do a straight division, right, we need about 38,000 homes. And if you look at that, what will be the impact on the housing demand? So straight off, you can take a look that we are going to have a lot more non-citizens. So if you are a foreigner or non-citizens, what can you buy if you choose to buy? So you can only buy condos, right? Okay, and bear in mind that right now condos may be a little bit, because of the 60% ABSD, you may be a little bit objection for foreigners. Now, so what does that mean? There's a lot of foreigners and then there's no place to house them. Would it mean that there will be certain demand that is going to increase for investment property, one bedder, two bedder? Because when foreigners come to Singapore to work, they will really actually will be renting. So bear in mind that perhaps maybe the rental market will see some opportunity going into the next 5 years. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. The foreign expatriates, right, will actually influence the investment property market and the rental market in Singapore. And we do see there's more Gen Zs and millennials that are entering the housing market. And these are actually looking for either a first-time homeowner, either through the BTO system, or they can straight away go and buy an EC, or going into a resale private property. Now, we will look at for property buyers. So what are the options that you can look for? Of course, you can always go for the BTO. And BTOs are something that probably a first owner, nothing wrong with that, a first time owner should really consider buying a BTO. Okay? If their options allow, of course you can consider going for an executive condo. But executive condos numbers are, through the years, are not many. In fact, there are only a few hundred units for the past 2 years, and the projected next year is also a few hundred units. Now let's look at the bulk of where the buying options are available. So number one will be resale HDB, because 80% of all our citizens are living in HDB, and resale HDB forms the big bulk where you'll be looking for the option to buy if you are a buyer. Now, so if you look at the other end, there will be resale condo that a buyer can consider, and also a new launch condo. So let's look at the resale transaction. Interestingly, the HDB resale transactions have been coming down. Now, 2021 is something that is really special because 2021 is where we actually exit COVID. So there's a very big demand, a big drive from the BTO shortage over the COVID period that drives more people going into the HDB resale. And you can see the HDB resale transaction has been actually gradually falling. The reason is because the demand has started to really slowly stabilize, number one. And number two, if you look at HDB resale prices, for the last 18 quarters, it has been on the rise. So when the prices are at all-time high, a lot of buyers would have more options given the amount of price, the amount of quantum that they are looking at. Now, if you just look at the numbers, because this is what we are talking about in this video, which is the supply and demand. For the last 10 years, the average number of HDB transactions, so if you look at the transaction number, it could roughly tell you what kind of numbers that we'll be playing with in terms of every year, which is roughly about 23,000, 24,000 per year. Now remember that number. Next, we'll talk about new condo sales in Singapore. Now, if you look at the new condo sales in Singapore, 2021 is the same thing, where actually exit from COVID, there will be a bumper demand to enter into. People are demanding for bigger spaces, more private spaces. Everybody's going for condominiums. Now, interesting to look is 22, 23, the amount of transaction has actually fallen. Okay, partly is really because, number one, the supply that is in the market is actually lesser and lesser. That's why when you read the news, government is actually selling more land to developers to help to elevate this undersupply issue. Now, we are interested in what is the approximate number of units that is sold. So typically per year, we're going about maybe close to about 8,000, 9,000 units per year. Now, remember that number as well, because now we are talking about the total supply. Okay? So if you look at BTOs, HDB has announced that for 2025, it's planning about 18,000 plus BTO flats that's going to be sold and going to be launched. Now, with that, okay, what are the implications for buyers when we look at the entire supply? So BTO and resale HDB supply, okay, if you look at the numbers itself, the BTO flats, okay, will be launched in 2025 is 18,500 plan. But if you look at it, it's actually on a downward supply trend as well. Given that the government has also announced that they plan for the next current 5 years to meet the 100,000 flat target. So even if every year look at the 100,000 flat target, it's about 20,000. So we are still a little bit shy of the 100,000. So if you take a look at the supply for HDB MOP, the MOP HDB that is going into the market next year is only 13,000 units. And if you add up all of them, so what is going to be impacted? Right? It's going to be impacted is the property prices. Because why? Because if you look at the resale condo versus the new launch, so new condos we talk about it, for 2025, we are expected to have about 8,600 units. And based on our past 10 years of sales, typically about 11,000 units of resale condos would be there in the supply cycle. So I know there's a lot of numbers, so let me summarize all the numbers for you right now. Okay, so if you look at the demand versus supply, so projected demand for 2025 would be roughly about 66,000 units. And wow, the projected supply, if we add up the new launch, we add up the resale, we add up the HDB resale, we add up the BTO, we come out to be about 56,000, 57,000. Not bad, because the numbers more or less quite tally, so we are roughly about 10,000 units short. Now, we have not factored in one thing. That population is expected to grow from 604 to 6.5 million in 2030, and the minister have already said that we are actually on track to go to a conservative number. Bear in mind the white paper actually pushed the number to 6.9 million on the high side, but we are only looking at 6.5 million. So by 6.5 million, the previous one that I've just shared with you, we need to add an additional 38,000 additional homes per year in order to satisfy the demand that is projected for 6.5 million population by 2030. So in fact, the total demand, adding in considering that there's a future demand, okay, the real demand is about 100,000 units. But right now, just now we mentioned that the supply is only about 56,000 units. So we are actually short by more than half. The demand actually outstripped the supply 2 times. So I don't have to, it doesn't take a genius to actually project. If there is 2 times the number of people trying to buy 1 unit of property, what is going to happen to the price? And we all know that because of this imbalance, the property prices in 2025 is going to go up. Now, of course, there are some bright sparks along the way, because for price variations, it goes into different regions. Now, right now, we see that there are some opportunity in the Prime District CCR, where the new launches, actually the price gap is moderated. What it just means that the pricing between a CCR property and a City Fringe RCR property has come down, and the price gap is very small now. So what does that mean? Is there an opportunity? The answer is actually yes. So we can have a few takeaway from all this. So number one, for home buyers, if you are home buyers, our recommendation is really to act early, because you will know that looking at the demand and the supply numbers, the price is going to continue to go up. And if you are ready to buy, okay, you are in a best position right now to actually enter the market. So do plan for the finances, okay, because of the interest rates are actually coming down, which we know, okay, but we cannot project, nobody can tell what the interest rate is going to coming into 2025. But right now, we know that the interest rate has slightly moderated, meaning that installments for home loan are actually more manageable. That is why we see that many new launches have been doing very, very well. The past 2, 3, 4 new launches, if you read the newspaper, has been doing very, very well. Now for investors, so this is something that I think you should really take note of, because some of the CCR prices and even RCR prices units that are still available in the market are actually at the correct entry price. They are actually at the correct entry price, and you can target these units at the correct entry price if you are looking for that 2-bedder, 2+ study investment unit, which is still available at the correct entry price. Now, when the price is correct, what it matters to an investor buying now is you are actually going in at very low risk. So in fact, the few buyers that I have helped to buy a couple of investment units, they are actually entering the market at the same price as the current resale market prices. some even enter at a lower than the resale market prices. Can you imagine buying a new launch that is lower in per square foot than a resale market? Now, wouldn't that put you at a very, very low risk, a very, very safe price? So, like I say, lock in the prices early. So there are still some pretty big developments that will be launched in the first quarter of next year. For example, Parktown, Tampines, and this is an integrated development as well. So if you are in the market for looking at the very first mover advantage, entering into an area where the future of the potential area is going to help you get a potential capital upside. And finally, if you are going for a BTO for first-time homeowners, and if you are ready and the finances actually is calculated and is ready, do consider also ECs, because ECs have never failed to make the capital appreciation. Those that MOP from ECs have always been able to make that capital appreciation. Now that's something that you should consider. Now the last thing is, if you are ready. If you are not ready, it's fine. If you are ready, do engage somebody that is a real estate professional like myself, and to help you suss out what is the potential units to really enter at the safe and correct entry price at the lowest risk right now when the window of opportunity is still open. Now, I'll just quickly sum it out now here. We have a very, very long session already. Just let me sum it around here. So to summarize it all, 2025 is going to set up to be a very exciting and really, really an opportunity for you if you are still looking for that property. You missed 2024, never mind, because that year has passed, but 2025 seems to have a lot more opportunities open for you with the correct entry price units at a very, very low risk for you to get a very potential capital upside. So if you are a home buyer, you should really act early and plan ahead to navigate through this market. Check with your agent, doesn't have to be me. Check with your agent if you are an agent, and if you don't have an agent, you can contact me and let me know how I can also help you analyze your current portfolio and how you can maximize and take opportunity of this 2025 new launch cycle. And if you are in the market thinking about either a BTO resale, or if you have the opportunity to go into an EC, can consider an EC as well. But the most important thing is do something about it if you are ready to do something about it, because this window of opportunity will not last forever, and it will come to an end, because as you know, market comes in cycle, and this cycle is right now still open. So let me know if you still want to explore and learn more how I have helped some of my buyers actually enter at the correct entry price with very low risk. Now, this is Pete from Singapore Property Bureau, helping you take the next step with your property. I'll speak to you soon.